States. The workers will be United States citizens. They will be paid U.S. wages. It is a job creator in the United States of America. And all of this other silly putty they throw up, for example, the free trade zone concept goes back to the 1930s. It is nothing new about the free trade zone concept. You have to apply to the U.S. government to get it, and if it didn't make sense, I guess they wouldn't have given it to him. But it is not aimed at doing business with Mexico. Mexico will be a tiny little part of this whole operation. Okay, if I am putting my country's interest far ahead of my business interest.
You would do better with NAFTA?
I would, no. When I'm in a room with corporate America, the first thing they say is, Perot, why don't you keep your mouth shut? You could, with your resources, make more money than anybody else. Here is the NAFTA game. By U.S. manufacturing companies cheap right after NAFTA passes, that are labor intensive, that make good products, that have marginal profits. Close the factories in the U.S., move the factories to Mexico, take advantage of the cheap labor, run your profits through the roof, sell the company's stock at a profit, go get another one.
That's what they do now. That's what they're doing right now.
Are they doing that now?
And they're using Alliance Carter Incorporated in part to do it.
You're talking about something like a trickle of water coming over Niagara Falls as opposed to the gusher. You know it.
Now, you say it's your son's business,
do you guys ever do anything but propaganda?
Isn't it your business also?
Would you even know the truth if you saw it?
Oh yes.
I don't believe you would. You've been up here too long.
Let me ask you a question.
Please let me finish. This is not crossfire, is it, Larry?
No. Go ahead.
May I finish?
And then I'd like to ask a question.
All right. I have tried to explain with countless interruptions that this creates jobs in the United States. I am extremely proud of what my son is doing. I want to answer the question that he jumped in to ask. I own a minority interest in the airport. Everything I'm doing makes it next to impossible for my family to ever do anything south of the border, and I could care less, okay?
You do no business in Mexico?
Look, I will put my country's interest in front of making money.
Let me know when
and I don't ever want to make money at the expense of other people. See, now, I got interrupted a minute ago when you shifted it back.
One other thing.
No, I'd like to respond on this before we leave it.
The financing of the anti-NAFTA campaign. You had not been asked it, and he asked it.
Okay, fine. I'll answer it. See, again, he throws up propaganda. He throws up gorilla dust. It makes no sense.
What is the thing?
May I finish? Yeah. Okay. Most of the television time I bought during the campaign, that is a matter of public record. I have had 2 television shows since the campaign in the spring. They cost about $400,000 apiece. Those are network shows. Then we just did a NAFTA show, but we have to buy the time locally. I don't have the figures yet on what that cost me. I'd be glad to tell you.
You're spending.
I had to buy it. No, I buy the television time because I don't want to take the members' money for that. They understand that. They approve of that.
I see.
Okay?
So it's your money.
Can I respond? Well, it's not all his money. And we don't know.
No, the television
because they do not.
Well, I just told you.
Well, but see, they do not release the records. But I accept your response because you have said that now.
If it makes you feel better to see the checks and the bills from the network,
it's okay for you to interrupt, but not me.
Okay, all right.
Now, hold on.
Right,
you just said that you would. You just said that you would release the records, and I appreciate that. Now,
it has nothing to do with what's going to happen to our country.
Well, we need to know who's trying to influence it. Now,
I am paying for it. Is that simple?
Okay. We got the answer, guys.
Okay, now on this alliance business is connected to the jobs issue.
Why is it important?
Well, because right now we've got these barriers that we cannot surmount to sell into Mexico. We have been trying for years to get an even relationship so that their tariffs, their barriers, their taxes at the border will be eliminated. A lot of companies now have an incentive to leave the United States and locate down there. We heard about auto parts. Right now there is a 13% tax at the border collected by Mexico on U.S. auto parts. Wait a minute, let me finish. This is important, Larry. And there is less than 1/2% tariff the other way. That big growing market down there, in a few years they're going to be buying 1 million cars a year. In order to sell into that market, these companies now have an incentive to pull up stakes and move down there. This business, which is not just his son's business, and there's nothing dishonorable about it at all, but here is the brochure for it, and here is the prospectus, and here are the 2 principal what looked like the two principal investors there, Mr. Perot and the American Eagle. And in the prospectus it says that, okay, see it there?
Okay, now.
And in the prospectus it says that this is an ideal national distribution center for products coming out of Mexico. Plus, he has lobbied the taxpayers to spend more than $200 million in taxpayer funds in this project.
Who is
that
he?
Takes you and your business.
I've not lobbied anybody.
There's nothing illegal about it.
I haven't done it. I haven't not lobbied anybody.
You've never hired a lobbyist?
In my life? You mean on the airport?
Both.
No, on the airport.
On the airport.
No, I don't hire lobbyists. This is my son's project. I went to the air show and hadn't been out there, probably been 18 months since.
What's the relevance?
Well, the relevance is that if the free trade, if the NAFTA is defeated, then this free trade zone that he has is still in business. If it's good enough for him, why isn't it good enough for the rest of the country?
He's doing this for personal profit?
I said before that I think that he is in a position to benefit either way. And he was in favor of NAFTA, again, made speeches in favor of it, wrote in favor of it in your book before you started running for president. You started getting a response from people.
Hold on. Let's ask this fairly. What turned you against it if you were in favor of it?
Well, conceptually, I'm for free trade. I am, if we ever get back to the subject, for a good agreement with Mexico. I am deeply concerned about the 85 million people who live in poverty and don't have any rights. I am deeply concerned about workers who, when they go on strike, U.S. companies call in goons, bring in the state police, shoot several workers, kill one, injure dozens, put the workers back to work, and cut wages 45%. Those are things that are wrong. We can do this right. I am not in favor of a one political party country. The PRI runs the country. President Salinas will pick his successor. President Salinas went to the 36 families who own over 54% of the gross domestic product and asked them for $25 million apiece. Fortunately, for their families, one of them leaked it to the New York Times and they didn't have to pay. That's Mexico. He will pick his successor, not the Mexican people. Read the State Department's annual report on human rights of journalists being killed, people in the opposing political parties being put in prison and killed and tortured. This is not a free society, and yet for some reason the same people who are willing to put our troops at risk around the world to make sure people are protected, once we get to Mexico, ignore all of it.
Are you saying that this supports a fascist kind of state?
I'm saying this is not, I'm concerned any agreement we do should give the Mexican people a decent life, and over a period of time should give them some purchasing power. If I'm going to do business with somebody, let's just say, if the U.S. is going to do business with another country, let's do business with a country whose people can buy things. Let's go to a big buyer.
President Salinas is a progressive?
President Salinas is almost out of office. I'm worried to death about who follows him.
Can I respond
When you treat people the way they treat people, it's a matter of time until they lose power. Now, they've had it for a lot of years, and they keep it by force, but whether it's labor and management or countries and people, you oppress people long enough, and you get a change, and that will happen.
Let me respond to this. Because some of what he's saying here is true. Mexico is not yet a full democracy. They do not yet have full protection for human rights. They do not yet have the kind of living standard and labor standards and environmental protection standards that we would like them to see. But they've been making tremendous progress, and the progress has been associated with this new relationship to the United States. The decisions in Mexico will ultimately be made by the people in Mexico. The question is whether or not we will have the ability to influence what they and their government decide. The best way to eliminate our influence down there is to defeat NAFTA. The best way to preserve it is to enter into this bargain, continue the lowering of the barriers. We've got a commitment that they're going to raise their minimum wage with productivity. We've got an agreement for the first time in history to use trade sanctions to compel the enforcement of their environmental standards. As they begin to develop and locate better jobs farther south, we cut down on illegal immigration. Now, one of the reasons why all of the living former presidents and the other folks that I mentioned are supporting this is because this is the kind of choice that comes along only once every 40 or 50 years.